Hey everyone, welcome back to ITIL 4 Unplugged, where we make service management make sense. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Jessica. And today, we're going to talk about something that sounds kind of dry, but trust us, it's anything but.
We're talking about supplier management. Yeah, the behind-the-scenes heroes and sometimes villains of your IT ecosystem. You know, all those vendors and partners we rely on, but don't always manage very well.
Mm-hmm. And later, we'll introduce this cool thing called SIAM. No, not a country, though it sounds like one. It stands for Service Integration and Management, and it might just be what your organization is missing.
All right, so let's get clear on what supplier management actually is. In ITIL 4, it's about making sure suppliers, external ones like cloud vendors, contractors, software providers, are properly evaluated, selected, managed, and held accountable.
Yeah, think of it like this. You wouldn't hire a contractor to build your kitchen without checking their references, right? Same goes for IT vendors. Except here, we're not just talking about building. It's about maintaining and improving, too.
Right, and ITIL defines the purpose like this: to ensure that suppliers and their performances are managed appropriately to support the seamless provision of quality products and services.
And honestly, that seamless part, that's the part that gets missed a lot. Like, if your service desk depends on a third-party tool and that tool crashes, who do you call? The Ghostbusters? Nah. You need clarity on who owns what.
Exactly. Supplier management is also about value. We're not just talking cost-cutting here. It's about making sure each supplier contributes to your organization's goals, like agility, innovation, stability, you name it.
And that's why supplier management connects with tons of other ITIL practices. Think relationship management, risk management, even continual improvement. It's not in a vacuum. It's a network.
So let's talk about value streams, because in ITIL 4, practices are brought to life through value streams. Supplier management plays a big part in ones like incident resolution, service request fulfillment, and especially service design.
Totally. Like, imagine a value stream for launching a new app. You'll need cloud hosting, maybe external developers, some licensing, all from different vendors. Who's making sure that whole pipeline runs smoothly? Supplier management. That's who.
All right, so we've covered the basics, but let's talk about what really happens when supplier management isn't done right. I mean, what does a supplier journey look like when it's not a total train wreck?
Okay, picture this. Your team needs a cloud database. You get quotes, sign a contract, onboarding happens, and then what? Nothing. No integration, no accountability, and the vendor? They say, that's not in scope.
Yeah, that's classic. And it usually happens because there's no standard supplier journey. ITIL 4 outlines one, and it's actually super helpful. You evaluate, select, contract, onboard, monitor, and offboard when needed.
Exactly. And each of those steps needs policies, responsibilities, tools, the whole thing. Otherwise, you're flying blind. You end up with 10 suppliers doing their own thing. No coordination, no data sharing.
And let's not forget contracts. Contracts should include things like performance metrics, penalties, incentives, but you'd be shocked how often they don't. Or worse, they do, but no one actually monitors them.
Yep. That's when supplier management becomes just like procurement paperwork. And ITIL 4 warns about this too. Supplier risk must be actively managed throughout the contract lifecycle.
So let's take a real example. Remember that time our cloud vendor went down for 3 hours? No one knew who to escalate to?
Yes. We had no escalation path, no performance dashboard, and no clarity on who owned recovery. It was just finger-pointing between internal teams and the vendor.
That kind of chaos is what ITIL 4 tries to prevent, with structured processes and roles like supplier manager and coordinator. But it also hints at something bigger. What happens when you've got multiple suppliers working together?
Now we're heading into the SIAM zone. Because when supplier management reaches its limits, like when you're juggling 5 cloud providers, 2 outsourcers, and a fleet of SaaS apps, that's when you need a conductor.
Yep. SIAM steps in as that conductor, making sure all the instruments play the same tune. It doesn't replace supplier management. It kind of, elevates it.
Next, we'll break down SIAM's core principles and show you why it's more than just a fancy acronym. It's the difference between, organized chaos and real service orchestration. So, let's go deeper into this thing called SIAM, service integration and management. It's basically the art of making multiple suppliers behave like one cohesive team. Think orchestra conductor, not traffic cop.
Yeah, each vendor might be great on their own, but without coordination, it's just noise. SIAM brings structure, accountability, and trust to multi-supplier environments.
There's this analogy in the SIAM guide that I absolutely love. It compares SIAM to skydiving in formation. Each skydiver is like a service provider. They have to know their slot, fly it perfectly, and not crash into anyone else.
And if someone messes up, everyone falls out of sync. There's no time mid-air to renegotiate roles, right? You have to plan and practice beforehand, just like with your suppliers.
What makes it click is that service integration itself is a service. It's not just oversight or governance. It's something you plan, you build, you maintain. And without it, things fall apart fast.
Totally. We've seen cases where 5 vendors are involved in delivering one app, and nobody owns the customer outcome. That's a recipe for finger-pointing and downtime.
So let's hit the basics. SIAM relies on a few core principles. First, integrate the intersections. That's where the gaps are. Second, shared success, because one vendor doing great means nothing if the outcome fails. And third, clarity of roles and contracts.
That intersections point is big. Most service breakdowns don't happen inside a vendor silo. They happen where their service touches another one.
Right? Like a cloud app depending on a third-party API. If the API fails, who takes the hit? Without SIAM, you just get a lot of, that's not my problem.
Yeah, exactly. SIAM puts the business outcome at the center, and it forces everyone to operate with the same mission. It's not just contracts and SLAs, it's collaboration and alignment.
And SIAM doesn't have to be fully outsourced, by the way. You can have a retained SIAM model where your internal IT team plays the integrator, or use a third party, depending on complexity.
And there's also the service guardian model, where one vendor acts as the integrator and the provider. Risky, but it works if you trust them and, if contracts are tight.
So let's get real for a second. We've talked theory, we've talked skydivers. Now let's bring SIAM down to earth. What happens when you've got multiple suppliers and no one's really in charge?
Chaos. And to prove it, we're going to look at a real-world situation. But we'll swap out the names to protect the guilty.
This one's inspired by the power grid of a certain island in the Caribbean. Let's call it Isla Rico. Now, Isla Rico's energy system is managed by, wait for it, 4 separate entities.
You've got Gridco, who owns the infrastructure, Voltops, who manages generation, Sparklink, who handles transmission and distribution, and Energov, the regulator.
And let's not forget FuelSys, the company responsible for supplying combustible to the generators. Yet another critical player with no formal integration into the rest of the system.
The 5th critical player.
Sounds organized, right? Well, yeah, not so much. There's no real integration, no single service view, and no end-to-end ownership. When outages happen, fingers point in every direction.
One company blames fuel contracts. Another blames poor maintenance. Meanwhile, citizens are literally sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to take responsibility.
If you're wondering where supplier management is, well, it's there. But each contract lives in its own silo. No shared KPIs, no unified governance, and zero coordination across suppliers.
It's a perfect storm. You've got complexity, critical infrastructure, and no service integrator. And without SIAM, All you've got is disconnected service towers.
But imagine if Islarico had implemented a SIAM model. A central integrator, maybe internal, maybe third-party, could oversee all performance data, manage interfaces, and track real accountability.
Instead of reactive politics, they'd have proactive service design, shared KPIs, cross-supplier change management, and visibility from boardroom to breaker box.
And honestly, it's not even that radical. The SIAM guide has real tools and models for managing this kind of complexity. It's not magic. It's governance, architecture, and some grown-up accountability.
Grown-up accountability. That's the quote of the day. And it's exactly what's missing in most multi-supplier setups that don't use SIAM. So let's recap. Islarico's got infrastructure, distribution, generation, regulation, and even combustible supply, all split between different suppliers and no one tying it together.
Exactly. Without SIAM, it's like building a Lego set with 5 people, no instructions, and everyone starting at a different corner. The result? A half-finished mess.
Now imagine the opposite. With SIAM, the service integrator becomes the glue. They align supplier goals, standardize processes, and give stakeholders one version of the truth.
And that one version, it's critical. Because without shared visibility, suppliers can hit their KPIs while the end service fails completely. SIAM shifts focus to the big picture.
So what are the actual benefits, right? Well, first off, SIAM boosts accountability. Each provider knows their role, and the integrator tracks how well those roles align to business outcomes.
Second, it simplifies governance. Like, you don't need 5 different dashboards and reports, just one clear view of how services are performing across the chain.
Third, faster resolution. SIAM builds in cross-supplier processes for incident, change, and problem management. So instead of "not my problem," you get "here's what we need to fix."
And let's not forget flexibility. With a mature SIAM model, you can swap out a supplier without breaking everything else. Because the interfaces, the contracts, the integration points, they're all predefined.
And look, we're not saying SIAM is easy, but for any organization relying on multiple vendors, which is basically everyone these days, it's not optional anymore. It's a strategy.
Supplier management gives you the contracts, but SIAM gives you the orchestra. And together, that's how you turn vendor chaos into real, reliable service delivery.
So if your organization is stuck managing vendors in silos, or worse, caught in the middle of a blame game, it might be time to ask, do we need a conductor?
In our next episode, we're going to dive deeper into how to actually implement SIAM, what it looks like in practice, what to avoid, and how to build trust across suppliers from day one.
Thanks for listening to ITIL Unplugged. Until next time, keep your service value chains flowing, your suppliers aligned, and your dashboards honest.